We have a rich history. In fact, we're probably the first or one of the first districts that employed our mental health staff that we had, albeit a very small team of 3 people.
We went through a real systematic process of how we trained our schools with PBIS, and that was kind of getting started in our district. But we continued to see some behaviors that were very intense. Even with the implementation of PBIS, there were some intense behaviors.
What we started noticing pre-pandemic was some serious needs of our kids that were outpacing our ability to be able to provide good professional services to the students and staff, I might add.
You know, when you think about educators, so many of our teachers go through their whole programming and never receive any preparation or program or training in the realm of mental health or social emotional well-being for kids. When you couple that with the fact that 20% of most individuals deal with some type of mental issues in their life, we're ill-equipped.
Most people don't know my personal story. I hadn't really experienced a lot of trauma in my life. I have worked with numerous kids in many different facets that had, but I hadn't experienced it. And so I did have a pretty significant loss in my life that came unexpectedly. That was a big trauma for me, and I dealt with that in my own personal way.
And then along came the Project Prevent grant. The grant really allowed us to see with a little more professional lens of seeing the true needs based upon the work that the grant required us to do.
But after trauma-informed care training, the mindset of what I believed and what I knew and what I understood for the people around me and for myself was a complete mind shift. And I recognized how mental health and just the need for psychological safety is so vital to be able to move forward, that when I got to go train for those 6 days with the University of Kentucky Center of Trauma for Children, something changed within me, and I felt like I needed to be a personal advocate and an example.
And what this program and what our grant has been able to do is build an awareness, help empower our individuals to understand social and emotional well-being as well as mental health, and give them the tools that they need to be able to move forward to support our students and even our families in some aspects. And I've been excited about that.
When you're a principal of a building and a leader of a building, you have so many children and so many staff that look to you to lead. And so that TIC training gave me a chance to really take my staff through what I had learned and what had changed me. And so we spent a solid 2 years really going through, what do we understand about trauma? How does that impact the learning in a classroom? What are things that teachers can do to ensure that you're providing that safe space and that one trusted adult where children can not move past their trauma, but to be able to cope with it in a way where it doesn't interfere with the things that we want out of public school.
Daviess County is full of people who work every day with heart, but it was a different way of thinking of, there's that behavior. Is there something else going on besides them just acting out? Why are they acting out? So I think the biggest change is we began to say, why is that behavior happening? Why is that child acting out? There is something missing that they need that they're not getting from us, and how do we find that?
And so for me, I think my whole life change of experiencing something, I was old school for a really long time. I've been doing this a long time, and I expected certain things out of children, and I still do. It doesn't change that, but it changes my mindset of what I believe that children need in a school system. And so I'm hoping that we continue that journey on. It's very prevalent now, not only for people to be able to talk about it, but be able to learn about it. And like I said, when you know better, you do better.
The things that we learned in the trauma modules really gave the why behind a lot of things that I had seen and experienced in the classroom for those 10 years before I became a counselor. And it was just aha moment after aha moment for us.
We pride ourselves in being a data-based school district that bases decision-making off of data. And we're able to accumulate all the data through the Project Prevent grant. It was a great catalyst for us to do that.
Because of those internalizing behaviors, we realized we needed a student voice. So we as a district started implementing an internalizing type of screener that students filled out. We did that for our 2nd through 8th grade students.
As we were having these conversations with the board, what we thought might be maybe difficult to get them to come around to the need was very easy, that we're able to show them the data that our students had great need in this area, and really they were fully supportive behind the needs that we had here to address this.
Using the student screener, we actually identified over 1,500 students from 2nd to 8th grade who identified some level of need of support. And that's their own feelings. And though our teachers and our educators are great, we can't get inside of every student's head. We don't always know what they're struggling with. And those invisible backpacks that we talk about with trauma-informed care isn't something we can always see. And so we wanted to be able to use that data to move forward.
I actually think because being preventative rather than being reactive was very instrumental in where we are today, because if you get behind it, we know that that makes the job so much more difficult. And so I think the prevention was a critical element to where we are today.
We began to look at how do we train some trauma teams to mesh with that PBIS. We had one team that had been trained, and it was comprised of like our mental health people. We had 3 student assistance coordinators and our director of student services. But coming from that school background, I wanted to have people involved in the trauma that knew day-to-day what it looked like in a classroom, day-to-day from a teacher perspective what it looked like. So we trained 2 other trauma teams through that same process, and I was very intentional about who we put on those teams that we trained. I had counselors from every level. I had a principal who was on there, and the idea was that if we put a trauma team together that had different roles, and then we trained those roles, that when a school went back, they would have an entire trauma team themselves.
And so when we sit down as a team, that is your SAC, your social worker, your FRISC, your admin team, your leadership, your counselor, we're all sitting down together to discuss those Tier 3 children and students. So we're all coming together to look at what needs and put our brains together. Think about the whole team coming together to really assess what are the barriers to helping them to stay in the classroom and to be successful.
So we now have a total of 12 SACs that assist us with our general education students, and we now have 4 mental health professionals that also help our students in special education based upon their IEP designations that are noted as services that are needed. That's a total of 16 people that we have across our district to address the mental health needs of our students.
We now have 1 person for each high school, and they're there 5 days a week. Think of a difference that makes just for those high school students, knowing that that person is there for any crisis or any need that could come up for staff as well.
So in 2021, as just part of our concentration on mental health, something that kept emerging too was bullying in our schools. And we, having the background of being a principal, I would tell the counselors, in 15 years, I've dealt with a lot of bullying situations. I never met a bully who thought they were a bully. But the bully is lacking a skill. They lack the ability to be empathetic and kind and compassionate, or they're making the choice not to be. And so you can, continuously lecture a child about not bullying, but we need to focus on the positive of what are they lacking. Let's give them what they're lacking. And so Daviess County developed the Be Kind campaign in 2021. And February every year is the Be Kind in Daviess County, and you'll see about 1,400 yard signs go around the district. Kids are recognized for their kindness, and our teachers and staff go to the homes and put those yard signs in. You'll see about 5,000 buttons and stickers and go around the district. And for the whole month, we just concentrate on the positive things about being kind and how that impacts our mental health.
Well, and you just have to have people around that can be advocates and change leaders for that. We've got a great team here that do that, and I think that's, teachers and staff and even parents can get so bogged down by behaviors that are influenced by trauma that we forget about the trauma and we only focus in on the behavior. And so looking at that whole picture of what we can do is huge.
We have been able to create amazing safe spaces here at Highland Elementary. And this room in particular is where I provide mental health counseling. I love this space because kids are able to come here and it's like a dedicated space where they can talk about whatever they need to talk about. They can practice relaxation techniques, mindfulness techniques, and it can be a place to de-escalate, and improve their overall mental health.
One of the things that we know about school safety is addressing the mental health needs of our students works in tandem with our SROs and the safety that they physically provide by being in our schools, so that whenever we have a threat or need a threat screener, they're the people that are rushing to meet that need, and also they're doing that on a daily basis by all the counseling that they do with our students in an effort to be preventative on the safety side. So I think that's a critical component that we want to make sure that gets captured as far as their day-to-day work that they do with our students. It also has a critical safety element to it.
I think mental health is such an important part in where our world is right now, not only for our children within schools, but our adults within schools.
It has changed the lives of kids here at Whitesville Elementary, and I know that it had changed mine as an educator and as a counselor. So thank you for providing these great opportunities for us.